Welcome to the realm of science fiction. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content. Enjoy listening. Josh Steinfeld had never been this close to becoming a test subject before. The Space Research Council, where he worked, had launched a major study to determine whether a human would experience sleep disturbances in space. No one else in the council wanted to be part of this experiment. Most employees preferred to observe from a distance and contribute only to the reports, but Josh was different. He believed he could do this job properly, and without a moment's hesitation, he volunteered to be the subject. He had no doubts in his mind. Days passed, and Josh completed all the preparations for his journey into space. All he had to do was go there and sleep under observation. Mentally prepared, he arrived at the space station, where the council had made arrangements with a space hospital as a precaution. At the hospital, doctors explained in detail the potential causes of sleep disorders in space. They discussed how microgravity could affect the human body's biological rhythms, how melatonin secretion could become irregular, and how the absence of natural daylight cycles could disturb his sleep. They also spoke about the eerie silence of space, how the lack of familiar earthly noises could play strange tricks on the mind. These factors could significantly impact Josh's sleep quality and duration. Aware of these possibilities, Josh signed a document accepting full responsibility for his participation. He was ready. Inside the high-tech sleep chamber of the space hospital, he was carefully placed into a specialized bed. The walls of the chamber emitted a soft, pulsating glow that mimicked the distant shimmer of stars. Oxygen levels were adjusted to match Earth's atmosphere. Doctors attached sensors to his body to monitor his sleep parameters, and once all preparations were complete, the room's lights dimmed, leaving Josh alone with his fate. As he drifted into sleep, nurses periodically entered and exited the room, conducting breath checks and various examinations. His colleagues meticulously documented the alien nurses' observations in their reports. Everything seemed normal, progressing as expected. However, during the 8th hour of sleep, Josh attempted to open his eyes but failed. His eyelids felt as if they were sealed shut by an unseen force. Realizing something was wrong, his colleagues alerted the nurses, who swiftly entered the room. Josh struggled again to open his eyes, but it was futile. His consciousness was intact. He could think, he could breathe, but his body refused to move. Panic threatened to rise, but he tried to remain calm. That's when he noticed another horrifying detail. He couldn't move any part of his body. He was completely paralyzed. The alien nurses surrounded his bed, adjusting their sterile gloves. Holding thin, sterilized needles, they gently pressed them against his arms and chest, testing for reflexive reactions. Under normal circumstances, such stimuli would trigger an involuntary response, but Josh remained utterly motionless. His pulse was steady, his breathing was normal, yet his muscles were entirely unresponsive. His colleagues recorded every moment of this unexpected phenomenon, adding detailed notes to the report. Hours passed, yet Josh's condition remained unchanged. The nurses, recognizing the anomaly, initiated an emergency protocol. The room was sealed, all external communications were cut off, and immediate treatment began. The hospital's advanced systems analyzed his brain activity and nervous system responses, searching for any unknown side effects of microgravity or the supportive medications used during the experiment. Eventually, after administering a specialized neural stimulation procedure, the nurses observed a faint tremor in Josh's eyelids. Seconds later, his eyes fluttered open. He realized he had been unconsciously holding his breath and exhaled deeply. Though his vision was blurred, he could see the figures standing around him. He turned his head slightly, feeling an unfamiliar weight in his body. Confused, he looked at the nurses. "What happened to me?" he asked, his voice weak and raspy. One of the nurses stepped forward, her voice calm and reassuring. "Josh Steinfeld, you experienced an unexpected episode of muscle paralysis during sleep. Your pulse and breathing remained stable, but your body ceased to respond. You were fully conscious, yet unable to move. We detected unusual irregularities in your brain waves." Josh struggled to process her words. He tried to recall what had happened, but the last thing he remembered was falling asleep. Beyond that, there was only a void. How long was I like that? You were never unconscious. Your mind remained awake, but you were unable to react for approximately 6 hours. Josh's thoughts spiraled in confusion. He tried to make sense of the missing time, but it was as if those hours had never existed. However, something about the nurse's presence now felt different. Their attention, their focus, it was no longer just clinical observation. There was a warmth in their eyes that hadn't been there before. One of the nurses smiled gently. "Please, keep your eyes open. You will see whatever you desire." Josh's mind reeled at the cryptic statement. What do I desire? He wondered. Just then he noticed something odd. The room was empty except for the nurses. His colleagues, the scientists who had been meticulously monitoring him, were gone. The doctors, the observers, they had all vanished. Josh struggled to sit up, still feeling weak. One of the nurses assisted him, her touch both firm and gentle. "Stay calm, Josh. Everything will be fine." He looked around anxiously. "Where is everyone?" The nurses exchanged a brief glance before one of them sighed softly. "We don't know. They disappeared suddenly. We tried to contact them, but there was no response. Right now, you are completely alone." A chill ran down Josh's spine. Alone, left behind in the vastness of space. Had the scientists abandoned him, or had something far stranger occurred? He had no answers, only uncertainty. But one thing was clear. The nurses were the only ones left with him. "What do I do now?" he asked hesitantly. Another nurse gave him a reassuring smile. "Don't worry. We are here. You are not alone. If you want, you can stay with us." Josh blinked, startled. "With you?" The third nurse stepped closer, nodding. "Yes, we can live here together. We will never leave you." Josh's mind raced. He was lost in space with no way back. His best option, the only option, was to accept the reality before him. And right now, the nurses were his reality. They offered security, companionship, and something he had never felt before, a sense of belonging. He took a deep breath and nodded. "All right, I'll stay with you." At first, life in the nurses' residence felt surreal. The space station had a private sector designed to simulate Earth's environment as closely as possible. Gravity was stabilized, the atmosphere controlled, even an artificial sky was projected above. As time passed, Josh found himself adapting more and more to this new life. The nurses cared for him, helping him adjust. In their warm presence, the loneliness he had once feared began to fade. He wasn't alone anymore. In the endless void of space, he had found his place. As time went on, Josh realized his relationship with the nurses was more than just friendship. They had become his family. They laughed together, shared meals, and spent long nights gazing at the vastness of space. One day, one of the nurses looked at him with a solemn expression. "Josh, would you like to stay with us forever?" Josh felt a strange warmth spread through his chest at her words. The question lingered in the air between them, heavy yet comforting. He had been living with the nurses for what felt like an eternity now, though time and space had an elusive nature, making days and nights blend into each other. The home they shared was nothing like the sterile, cold environment of the research station where he had originally been sent. This place had warmth, laughter, and a sense of belonging that he had never truly felt back on Earth. The nurses, with their gentle voices and kind smiles, had become his family in a way he had never expected. Still, the question caught him off guard. Forever? That was an entirely different commitment. Josh looked into her eyes, searching for meaning beyond her words. "Do you really mean forever?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The other two nurses who had been sitting nearby exchanged glances before one of them nodded. "Yes, Josh, we want you to stay with us, not just as a guest, but as one of us, as someone who belongs here, with us." Josh let out a slow breath, his fingers tracing the smooth surface of the table in front of him. A part of him knew that his life back on Earth no longer existed. He had been missing for too long. Even if he found a way back, he wasn't sure there was anything waiting for him there. The research team had vanished. The station had gone silent. The only certainty he had left was here, in this strange yet comforting home among the stars. He closed his eyes for a moment, letting the weight of the decision settle within him. When he opened them again, he saw only kindness in their faces, only acceptance. "All right," he said finally, a slow smile forming on his lips. "I'll stay." The nurses' faces lit up with joy. One of them reached for his hand, squeezing it gently. "You won't regret it, Josh. We'll take care of you." And they did. Days turned into weeks, and Josh found himself adapting fully to his new life. The nurses were his companions, his friends, his home. They taught him more about the space station, its hidden corridors, its secret gardens where holographic skies projected shifting stars, its quiet chambers filled with music that hummed like the heartbeat of the universe. He learned their customs, their ways of living, and in return, they listened to his stories of Earth, of a life that now felt more like a distant dream than a reality he had once lived. One night, as they all sat together under the artificial sky, one of the nurses turned to him with a soft smile. "Josh, would you like to make it official?" He raised an eyebrow. "Official?" The nurse nodded. "A ceremony, a way to truly become one of us?" Josh hesitated only for a moment before nodding. "Yes, let's do it." And so, beneath the shimmering glow of simulated starlight, they held a small but meaningful ceremony. There were no grand gestures, no elaborate traditions, just the four of them, hands clasped together, promising to remain by each other's sides. As they exchanged quiet words of commitment, Josh felt an overwhelming sense of peace settle within him. The weight of his past life, the uncertainties he once carried, all seemed to fade into the background. Here, in this moment, nothing else mattered. After the ceremony, they shared a simple meal, laughing softly as they recounted memories of their time together. The artificial night stretched on, but none of them felt the need to sleep. Instead, they sat by the wide observation window, watching distant stars twinkle in the void. Josh found himself gazing at the vastness of space, realizing that for the first time in his life, it didn't feel lonely. It wasn't empty, it was full of possibilities, of warmth, of love. He turned to the three women beside him and smiled. He had found his home, and he never looked back.